Hello. Today is the 30th of April 2020. So now I have 8 days shy of 9 months to prove this lotto. So I'm going through a big clean out. I hope you can see that. Basically, I have to sort things into bags and, like things like this, anything like I've just got so many things, but yeah, mainly paperwork. But even things like this, I have to look through all these papers, and pretty much for quite a few years, I have hardly thrown anything away. I've even collected more stuff, just to buffer the blow if I don't find the ticket. But it's catch 22 because I've actually created more hoard for myself. So yeah, things seem to be this weekend. They're going to let people have a bit more recreation, but um, I heard that there's going to be more police about as well. So I don't know if that's such a good thing. Um, Supposedly, for a week, there's been no coronavirus new cases in Cairns. I'll show you what looks like a dead body on one of my couches here. That's all my lotto paperwork. So I had a friend come over and it actually looked like a dead body. It even scared me. But anyway, I'm just going to continue going the way I'm going. Tomorrow, somebody's going to come and have a look at the ceiling because I've been really wanting to get it painted, and I've taken out some extra money. So, well, I actually, yeah, I've taken out money for that, so I don't want to go spending it. Um, my family don't want me to send parcels, but I have a friend down south. And look, for example, look, even an old phone book, I have to go through every page. That looks quite pretty. I have to go through every page to see that I don't have a ticket in there because sometimes I do place tickets in places like that in the past. Actually, that's reminded me of about a few days after I bought this lotto ticket. I didn't know it had won even when it had won, but I was taking the newspaper out of my room. We'd only just moved on in the premises, and the page flicked open like this, and on this side, I read about, oh well, there's a guy from the newsagent, and it actually had the numbers, and it said that someone had won, but it didn't say whether it was. Of course, it didn't give too much details away. But to me, I actually saw the numbers that I'd picked a few days before. Now, this also reminds me of when I was, I don't know, about 1920. I borrowed a book from Manly Library, and it was so biography is a biography. I get a bit confused, like fiction and non-fiction, because the non makes me think it's a negative. So fiction is um, not true and non-fiction is true. So uh, autobiography. Look, I have to go back to school. A biography of someone is probably what they do, and an autobiography is what someone else done. But I have to check this. But anyway, it I read a book that was first written in the 1800s about a Jewish guy called Samuel, and now I'm forgetting the name, Sachs, I think it was. And I, I did things really funny. Like I really wanted to finish this book, and it was in the days that like I had some friends that I thought were quite smart, and I never went to uni. My family said like you may as well go and get a job. I really wanted to study fine arts, but you know they didn't see the sense in that, and I was surfing at the time. So anyway, and it was in this period that I'd been working. I'd already left school, I suppose, and I know too much information. I was working in a bank, and I hated it. It actually was a Commonwealth Bank, and to this day, when I go near the Commonwealth Bank, I actually feel a bit ill. I couldn't stand the colour of it. I just really didn't like working there, and where I was working was right near the beach. So at lunchtime, I'd go to the beach and wish I could go surfing. So, I hadn't grown up yet. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, I'm just thinking of other things, but I remember leaving school and my family going to the Gold Coast, and I thought, well, I'd hung in school so long, I should just go to work. So I went to work instead of going on a holiday. Anyway, I'm going so far off track. In short, I borrowed a book from the library, and I'd read about halfway through, and my grandfather was ill, and we were going to see my grandfather. So I took the book back to the library, and then I went to get it back again, and I couldn't find it. And now this book, oh, this going back to the friends at uni, they were really into, they must have just been doing arts, and they read about Jean Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir and things like that. So I was at that time, like into feeling these books out and seeing what they saw in this literature anyway. And basically they were philosophers, sociologists, and uh, I am, therefore I am, and Simone de Beauvoir was a feminist. And anyway, I see John Paul Sartre with his glasses. Anyway, so anyway, it was during this period that I'd go to a library, and how I'd get books is I'd just have a feeling for a certain area, and I'd just go bang 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 and pick about three books. So one of those books was that um, like biography of Sebastian Sachs, and I remember reading. This was like the newspaper that flung open in my room. This side had the details of the lotto ticket. So, okay, so say that's my right hand, which it is. Um, this is the right side of the book that I'd read. I'd gone to the library to find the book, and I told them what the book was, but apparently it was so old in the library that it wasn't catalogued properly, and the book had somehow it had disappeared. And I was told I could do a search and it would cost me money. And this is me being really Jewish. I didn't want to pay for it. They said, we've taken a lot of books to like a second hand shop because, they were just culling their shelves. So anyway, I go, well, I've only brought it back, like a couple of days ago. So we actually finally found the book. I don't know that it might have just been in the section that wasn't properly catalogued. It was quite weird. I've had these sort of incidences with books before. One was with the Mental as Anything book as well, and that's because I don't have much order in my life, and I do things, and then like my mind seems to want to go around in circles and find things for itself, just simple things, and that that brings me to why I probably hoard, because my brain is pretty much a mess. But I remember things like numbers and dates. So, they're in the lotto ticket. It's really hard for me to let that one go, and also that I chose the numbers. Okay, so finally I get this book back, and so on the right hand side, I was reading. On the very page that I hadn't read, I started reading about a person that was born between two stars. It was pretty cosmic. And it was like book in the romantic era, and talked about the boy being in boarding school and they used to make love to the earth. But I was a bit of a romantic, like of the 1800s period, not like novels just about love. Anyway, or books about love. Okay, so all right, and possibly I'm tired. Okay, so on one page I put the book down, and on the next page, and the other thing was that I found out that I had been pregnant at this time as well. So, my whole body was going through a lot of stuff. So, and that mainly because my grandpa was very ill, and yeah, lot of tension there. He was a very lovely man. Okay, so I start reading on the next page that I hadn't read after I get this book back. When I could have just renewed the book and got it back really simply, but I had to work hard to get this book back. And like, because I didn't want to pay for a search, we ended up finding it, a really good librarian and myself. So um, possibly not a book that everyone would like to read, but then again, maybe it'd been read many times before, but it was almost like I was reading it for myself. And I actually felt like, it's pretty trippy, but I felt like I was reading about myself. I was meant to get that book back. And so what I read, in the top part of the page was, um, Samuel had a friend, or a friend was talking about Samuel, and referred to them as being born between, I think it was Samuel talking about the friend, and so the friend got introduced into the book, and the person had been born between two stars, but knew Samuel. So maybe this was me 100 years before, because they actually said that the person. I hope this is making sense. Like, this is more of a reference for me, but it's just that I'm thinking about this now. Um, like so, Samuel, or the person that was being written about, was born between two stars. And the other thing was that they were born on the 21st of November, 1861. I'm thinking, I'm born on the 21st of November, 1961. What a coincidence. So it was almost like I was meant to have read that book. So I ended up reading the book, and it was really just a story of one's life in that period. But it makes me think about, if you believe in past lives, because past life people that are really into it, there's lots of different ways of viewing it, but basically it's like we're living in the past, now, and future. Because in our lives we've been many people at many times. We could have even have been murderers and the like. And you've got to have a taste of everything to realize, right and wrong, if this makes sense. Anyway, I've really totally gone off the track, but like, yes, me finding that newspaper with the newsagent and the lotto numbers in it was almost like when I had put that book back and um, found it again, and was almost reading about myself. The other thing that happened once before was, my son and I gravitated between Cairns and Sydney. And my son started going to school. His school in Cairns had shut down, and he wanted to go to school with his cousin. And he was interested in art like myself, and he was doing an art project. And we were in Sydney, and we went to Manly Library, and we got the book, and I believe it was called Art Imitates Life. And it was all about Mambo, and it had some about mental as anything in it. And I remember the book was red. Anyway, we came back to Cairns, and I had a habit of borrowing books from libraries, so I kind of stopped this because I'd love to borrow lots of books, and I'd never get to read them all, and then we'd end up, in another state, and we'd have to send them back. So what happened was that I sent the book back to Sydney, to Manly, and I wrote I think what I wrote was Manly Art Gallery, because I had West Esplanade in my head. So I actually sent the book back. Look, I don't know exactly what I did now, but I believe that maybe I sent the book back to Manly Art Gallery, but I wrote the address because it was in my mind, because I didn't know the exact address. But I'd written it to Manly Art Gallery. So anyway, as a result, I got a letter from Manly Art Gallery and saying that they didn't get the book back. So I wrote back to them and said, "Oh, look, I've returned it." So anyway, sometimes I used to model for art classes, and one day I went modeling in Manly Art Gallery, um, as a model for life drawing. And we went to have a cup of tea, and in the kitchen, did I see, and this is after I'd returned this supposed book back, I'd returned this book back to Manly, excuse me, Art Gallery. Look, anyway, I was meant to return it to the library, but I see the book that never got returned back to the library in Manly Art Gallery. So I felt like taking it and just putting it back in the library. But you can't do that because there could have been many copies of the book. But I did ask, someone behind the desk. I said, "Look, I borrowed this book and I thought I'd, given it to Manly Art Gallery, Manly Library." See, I'm getting confused now in my tiredness. But now I see it in the coffee room of the Manly Art Gallery. And what I was told was, and it had no thing on the spine. So basically, what I was told was, because Manly Library and Manly Art Gallery aren't too far away from each other, that Manly Library has books and they're marked as such, but Manly Art Gallery also has like library books, but they're not um, with the Dewey numbers on them. So I thought, hang on, maybe they just contracted that they got this book and they just claimed it as theirs. And not long after that, did they have a mental as anything exhibition. So it was just a mystery. In short, we'd borrowed this book. I sent it back to Manly, but it never got to the library. So I think that possibly I sent it to Manly Art Gallery because, my mind gets a bit confused sometimes. Not so much about numbers, but, like I'm a bit vague on addresses, and I just, um, oh, look, I can give you many instances, like going for a job interview once. I'd have the address in my head, and once I went for a job in Mossman and I walked up and down all the streets in Mossman. And I could have looked it up, but I thought, no, I've got to get my brain working, and I'll look for this place. And like lucky I left time to find the place. I was miles out from where I had to go. I ended up getting that job, was as a diversional therapist in a really nice place for people with dementia. Anyway, so the other time when my brain, an example of my brain operating like that was, after working in a bank and several jobs, and I really wanted to pursue fine art because, I just feel like paintings used to make me cry. Um, because I just feel for them like some people feel for music or whatever they love. Um, so that's my expression. I applied to do fine arts at College of Fine Arts, which became New South Wales University the year that I applied. But where I made the mistake was I took a portfolio in, and the way you get into these places is normally by your portfolio. It's not really on your marks, although I was going in as a mature student. And I remember taking my portfolio there and seeing lots of strange, because lots of really, strange people get into fine arts. It's their way of expression, and they are very individual looking people, not like what you would stereotype if someone's doing accountancy at uni, um, what they would look like. They're normally pretty straight looking. Well, fine art people generally are not. Anyway, I took my portfolio and I got from, I think it's called QTAC or QTAC, the University Admissions Centre, oh, UAC. Okay, I got from them that I got into uni, and I was all excited. I was in my um, probably late 20s. So they said you had to enrol at New South Wales Uni at Kensington. So I'd gone down there, and what I remember of it was that there was all these subjects, and it was like a big cattle call, and I couldn't find painting or any of the subjects that I wanted to do. And then I found out that I'd actually got into the wrong university. I'd actually got into a Bachelor of Arts instead of a Bachelor of Fine Arts, because on my, even though I took my portfolio to the Fine Art College and probably was approved by the Fine Art College, on my registration I had written BA, and I wasn't going for a BA at all. I wasn't academic at all. So anyway, I so much happened that year. Like, I used to cross the Harbour Bridge. I worked. I actually had to wear makeup at the time because I was so drawn out, because I was working long hours. I was studying things that I didn't want to study. I actually studied music, and I never studied at that level before, and it was so hard for me. Um, One guy, when we used to have to hear, because you had to be quite spot on, you had to be really musical. You had to hear like intervals in music. One guy would let me copy. Unfortunately, I missed. Instead of copying one down, I'd copy two down as one, so every answer was wrong. And I remember my first tutorial, and I tell my son this, was I did it on Haydn, the string man, and I was so probably not prepared or embarrassed that even though I was an adult, I couldn't face the class, and I asked the lecturer, "Can I do this with my back to the class?" Well, of course, I was made to do it again. I did not pass every subject that year, because I ended up having to do a year of um, full on academic uni, but I was allowed to cross over and do some cross institutional subjects. So, for example, in the first semester, I had to do my full load of uni at New South Wales Uni, but New South Wales Uni was also College of Fine Arts down the road. So they actually let me do painting and photography the first semester, but then I was told, and this is even with me, because I was told after first semester you'll be able to put your foot in the door for the next semester. So look, I was just a political football really. So there's the art college there, and there's the New South Wales arts where you can do languages and everything. So New South Wales Uni let me cross over with the permission of the arts college, which was now New South Wales Uni as well. I was able to do some subjects, but I got told that because I'm at uni here, I can't do too much fine art. And at the same time, I was trying to get in, and much to my horror, like second semester came, and I found people that had just applied second semester, a couple of people that got in. So I felt really awful because I was working long hours. I crossed the harbour bridge. I was in tears. My hair fell out. This is how much I wanted to do fine arts. And to keep my foot in the door, I had to stay at the other uni. So, you know, this is just how determined and how my brain works and how I probably made life hard for myself. But anyway, so I'd go into, before second semester, I'd go into the office at the Fine Art College, got like PTSD with this, and I would say to them, I just want to choose subjects for the next semester. And they'd go, oh, well, go outside. They're on the board, and I used to write letters to them, and they'd be in texture. And I remember my tears would fall down and make the text to run. If that's not fine art, and probably an example of things done, you know, romantically in the romantic era. Anyway, I'm talking like a schizophrenic now, and I'm not. But you know, um, no offense to people that are, but I am like that, but I'm not. I haven't been diagnosed with this. Anyway, so my first year at uni, it ended up being I had to fight to even do the subjects I wanted in the second semester. I was told by New South Wales Uni that when I explained to someone in one of the offices what had happened, oh, and actually the art college said, look, um, if New South Wales Uni lets you cross over to here, we'll let that happen. So I went to New South Wales Uni. They wrote me a letter for the College of Fine Arts and said, like Kathy, this is what's happened. Could she cross over? When I got back to the Fine Art College, their numbers were probably up, and they said no. So I remember, and I can still remember the guy's name. One was like something Colson, and one was Kevin Reinhardt. They both were artists, and one was like the head of the school, and one was the deputy head. So anyway, at one point I went to see this guy, and this is bald-headed guy. His name was Cole. Oh no, it was Cole Jordan actually. He said to me, "Well, um, and at this stage, I'd already gone through Freedom of Information, and I found out that a panel of 5 from the Fine Art College had actually ticked me in by my work. But one of the arguments was that maybe my aggregate wasn't great enough to with that for me to get into the fine arts. But it generally is you need a higher aggregate to get into academic arts. So anyway, it wasn't making sense to me, but I had to do a lot of running around, and this is with me working, and my hair had fallen out, and I'm really just spending a year not doing anything that I love. Anyway, so I've gone to see Cole Jordan, and he said to me, "Well, um, let bring in your portfolio." And I said, "Well, I shouldn't have to because I've already brought in my portfolio and I was already ticked in by a panel of 5." So anyway, of course, the argument, or maybe your aggregate wasn't high enough, but I was coming in as a mature age student anyway. And things like fine arts, a lot of people, because it's fun, a lot of people want to do it. And like, of course, they've got to cap the number of people. They still got to do that. They can't just let everyone in that wants to go to study something in. Anyway, so that was my soiree with Cole Jordan. Then I went to see the head. He told me to go and see Kevin Reinhardt. So he was the head of the school and he had his paintings around the place. And I told him what happened, and he said to me, "Oh, look, the same argument, like I said, I was ticked in by a panel of five, and all this blah blah blah. Anyway, it resulted in nothing. Although the very next year, they let me into College of Fine Arts, and because I'd gone through so much shit and torment, I couldn't even walk in the door. So anyway, now I do a bit of. I mean, there's a painting of my son. Can you see it? Or can you even see it? Oh yeah, probably. Anyway, so a few times in my life have I been so careless and you know like probably because it's really hard for my brain to get um, run in an organized fashion. I just let everything relax, and then it's really hard for me to pick up pieces. And this lotto ticket, as much as it's a big money win, it a lot of it is about me standing up for what I know that I've done and that I have to prove. So anyway, this has been going on for a rather long time. Thanks a lot. So I just like to get this win and give it away, I suppose. But I'm not going to do that because I'm rather poor at the moment. Anyway, thanks. But I will when I've gone through this lotto journey. I will focus for the last bit of my life painting and expressing myself, and I can do that all right.